Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Ladies and gentlemen, take a deep breath and don't panic. I've been hearing a lot about diesel and heating oil as well, that we don't have that many days of supply stored away. I believe diesel is like 25 days or so, and I believe that I saw an article where it said that heating oil, right, that's what I use, and that's why I stocked up before winter started. That heating oil is only down to about a 28 day, I believe, 28 or 29 day reserve, meaning that we have that in reserve. I don't want you to panic when you see videos about this or you read article about this. For example, if you just read the title, then you may get a little panicky, especially if you rely on heating oil or diesel. Here it says diesel shortage update as prices skyrocket over fears that supply could run out. In my opinion, supply isn't going to run out in 25 or 26 days from when this was first being published. I did a video about this, I think on the 20th of October. And if I remember right, on that video, I explained something very shortly. I only spent about maybe 30 seconds explaining this, and that's what I'm going to explain to you now, because I don't want people to panic. All right. There is good news that I don't think we're going to run out in like 20 days or before Thanksgiving, whatever it is that people are saying. And there's also bad news, and I'll go over that on this video. So here, of course, if you just read the title and you go on, then you may panic. An acute shortage of diesel fuel in the U.S. is threatening to keep inflation and heating bills high in the country through the winter, as prices are expected to continue surging. New governmental data released on Wednesday show that diesel supplies are unacceptably low. Let's see, according to the EIA, the U.S. has now about 25 days left of diesel supply, its lowest level since 2008. This is not a good thing. The reason this is not a good thing is because if something happens where our refineries can no longer refine crude oil and get diesel out of it, we only have 25 days. So if some black swan event or something like that happens where all of our refineries go down, then we only have 25 days of diesel left. However, if the refineries are still pumping out diesel at an average rate, that amount, that 25 days, may go down a little bit over time, depending on how much diesel the refineries can produce. And I believe that right now they're just about keeping up with demand. And that's why I don't want people to panic. Now, how is this going to affect us? Sure, we have a diesel shortage because our reserves are really low, and in order to get our reserves back up to where they need to be, what has to happen? We have to put diesel in there, right? And then what happens if we put diesel in the reserves? Well, it's going to take out of the economy. It's going to take out of the supply that the refineries are producing for everyday use, and if they're producing just enough, what's going to happen? We're going to have a shortage. What happens when you have a shortage? Some cities may run dry for a few days. Diesel suppliers warn businesses on the East Coast to prepare for diesel shortage after the Big R cut off imports. I don't want you to panic, but I do want you to prepare, okay? We've gone through this before, where we had a couple of days where there was a severe shortage of gasoline in the East Coast when that pipeline got hacked into, I believe it was, that went from Texas all the way to the East Coast, and we survived. People started to do a little bit of panicking, but the outage wasn't long enough to where it was a full-blown crisis where there was absolutely no gasoline for weeks and weeks and weeks. Some gas stations ran out of gas. Some gas stations ran out of fuel. But we survived. I hope that people learned from that instance and then went out and got themselves at least the equivalent of one full gas tank of gasoline for each vehicle that they own. It's aggravated a little bit more because we are not now producing what we used to produce, when at one time we were pretty much energy independent, meaning that we didn't have to rely on our adversaries to ship in fuel to our country. Whenever I say that and I talk about that, it kind of breaks my heart because it reminds me of Venezuela, a country that sits on the largest oil reserve in the world, and they can't even pump their own oil efficiently enough that it's worth their while to actually pump their own oil and refine it themselves for their own use. So, but anyways, I digress. So again, I just don't want you all to panic. This is something that we should be taking very seriously. You should be preparing for this. Do you use heating oil? I'll tell you what, I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. If it were me, if it was me, and I had a few extra empty tanks where I can put my heating fuel, my heating oil, I would definitely try to fill them up. And as I previously stated, I did that early this year. I think it was in January or maybe even December of last year. What does this mean to you? That there's going to be a shortage even for these companies. And guess what they're going to start charging more for? They're going to start charging more for diesel. And then guess what the people that transport your food around and your goods around are going to start charging more for? They're going to start charging a higher surcharge for their fuel usage and then putting that cost down to you, to the consumer. Eventually the consumer pays for everything. All right, ladies and gentlemen, businesses don't very often absorb extra costs. It just gets put on to the end consumer, which is you and me and the average Joe out in the street. Now I want to show you something that I came across that explains what I told you about how refineries, are still refining oil into gasoline and diesel, distillates and stuff like that. And they say it a lot better than I do. They say here, if oil refiners can outpace demand, the number will slowly rise. Meaning that if the oil refiners can outpace the demand that we use on a daily basis, that the number that we have in storage will rise by days or maybe by half days, however much extra they can put in there. So our storage is kind of like our piggy bank, and we should be full on any reserves that we have for any kind of fuels, to include the strategic petroleum reserve. We should have those tanks full at all times, ladies and gentlemen, because they provide what is the bare minimum for us to get by for like maybe a month and a half, should some kind of catastrophe happen and we get cut off from all oil from refineries and or imports. So they say it has already increased slightly from 25.4 days of supply from the week ending October 14 to the current supply of about 26 days, which means that the refineries are producing just a little bit more than what we are using on a daily basis. But being that we have such a short amount of stock of reserves left, that means that we are going to have higher prices. The part of this where I want you to read between the lines is this right here. It says a handful of factors have contributed to current supply and demand issues, including the health crisis. It wasn't because of the health crisis. That shouldn't be a factor. It's because of the mandates and policies put forth by our governments, right? That's why. It wasn't because of this. It was because they shut everything down. They made everyone stay home. And that affected it, okay? Shutdowns of some oil refineries throughout the nation. Why? Why are oil refineries shutting down? Maybe it has something to do with regulations. I would probably say that that plays a big part in why. I do know that some of them had caught on fire and things like that. But as I've stated on previous videos, our oil refineries can actually put out more than what they're putting out now. But with all of these restrictions that they're putting upon the oil refineries, they're not able to put out more than what they can actually put out. And sanctions on the big R. Who are those sanctions hurting? For everyone that's cheering for these sanctions, who are they hurting? They're obviously not hurting the big R. Get on YouTube. Get on YouTube and punch in any kind of channels from people that live in the big R and how they tell you that things are over there. It seems to me like they're doing pretty well. You know, the only thing that they put out in the news are all of the young men that are supposedly, and I'm saying supposedly because I'm not there, I don't know that for a fact, all of the young men that are being drafted into service. But take a look at just average everyday YouTube channels from the big R to see how they're doing. I mean, it doesn't seem like inflation is affecting them as much as it's affecting everyone else. You know, even the prices of fuel for them is really not up anywhere near as it is anywhere else. So who do sanctions really affect? So all of these things are affecting this, as they state here. But the question that I ask is why? Why are these things affecting them? And it all goes back to policies and to rules by edict is what it rolls back to. I wanted to show you one last thing, and that's this right here. This is the EIA site, and EIA stands for Energy Information Administration. And if you go all the way down here, I went ahead and put a check mark on them so that I can get to it quickly without looking for it. It says days of supply, numbered in days. So for crude oil, it says that we have a 28-day supply. Gasoline, it says we have 23. But at the same time, remember what I stated before, that this is if all refinery capacity just shuts down. If it all shut down right now, this is how much we have left. 23 days of gasoline. Kerosene and jet fuel, 23 days. Distillate fuel oil, and that's to include diesel, I believe, is 26 days. And propane, 86 days. All right? They don't cover natural gas here. But you can see that we have pretty low amounts, really, when you count it in days. This is not a lot of reserves, but this is the worst case scenario if we can no longer distill any of this. All right, so don't panic, ladies and gentlemen. Just continue to prepare. All right. Having said that, I was trying to get a video out early today about how you can get some emergency heat. I try to put it out, but it's just so much to edit on there that it's taken me a while. So I'll put that out after this one. And I do believe that I have one more video going on. I'll probably put it out later on tonight that I think is very important. So we'll talk to you then, ladies and gentlemen. Again, don't panic. Just continue to prepare. If you set your eyes on just one thing and you get tunnel vision, you're going to get distracted. Okay, we put these videos out. I know that some channels are a little hyperbolic. I know I get excited sometimes, but I try not to be hyperbolic where I tell you to panic. Because panicking, when you're prepping, it's so that you don't have to panic, ladies and gentlemen. All right, that's what you prep for, so you don't have to panic. So I try to get you this information so that you can be better advised, and more importantly, so that you can be encouraged to go do your own research. So I will leave the link to all of these on a pinned comment so you can revisit them if you like. Other than that, have a great day. Remember to be good to each other. When good people do good things happen. Remember to reach one, teach one, and repeat. If we all did this, the world would be a better place, and you know that it will be a better place. Many blessings to all of you and your families. I'm Alaska Prepper. I'm out.